Thank you, Dave.
Hi, thank you. Good mid-morning to you all. After having heard the sessions, the full day session yesterday, probably all of you might have gone to your press, changed your blankets, tried to introduce your MIS system, and got a fantastic job printed on your Heidelberg machine. And in the morning, you come and see the printed sheet on your table. Yeah, fabulous job done. And then what next? Next is people are running around for your binding purpose. He says Survey is busy. He says Dewinter is busy. And take Katela Sagit Laga. You know, this is what we hear every day at our place. We don't give importance to postpress. I mean, with the living example, I can start with myself. Year and a half back, I got an order for printing a book consisting of 240 pages from Singapore. I did the first proof copy that is running around 1000 sheets and made 10 copies. I mean, I made a lot of copies, but selected 10 out of them, the best according to me, hardbound copies, and sent it to Singapore customer for their approval. They were damn happy with the results. They were very happy with the quality of the printing, but they said that, I'm sorry Mr. Nair, you will not be able to give us the binding as what we want. I lost the order. And then what? What did I do? Nothing. I did nothing as far as improving the binding is concerned. Even today, I am thinking about adding one more printing machine, 4-color or 5-color. I never thought of adding a binding section, full-fledged binding section, and I am very sure that many of you fall in my line too. Now, because we neglect that particular post-press section, we don't find that is very important for us. Now to tell us how important it is and how much you have neglected in our country, the post-press. There is a gentleman, an youngster, who has flown from all the way from Germany, a very handsome youngster, who is, of course, now working for Kolbus, born in 1969 in Netherlands, got married in 1995. Before he got married, in 1991, he was responsible for marketing sales in Door Advertising Agency in Hamburg. While he was in Hamburg, he got married to a German girl. And, of course, got a boy. When the boy started growing up, the couple decided that the best place for my boy to grow up is not this big city, Hamburg. It should be a countryside. Now, that is the coincidence where Bastiaan Dewinter moved to Raden in Germany and joined Kolbus. Bastiaan is the area manager, and India and Scandinavia is under his area. And he has hobby as farming, and he has love towards animals. He has 5 horses, 2 dogs, cats, rabbits, all of his pets. Now, he is here, and he also owns an organization who import natural products and sells it. Now Mr. Bastiaan Dewinter is here to tell us about the binding. Now, may I present Bastiaan Dewinter. Mr. Dewinter also is a guitarist. And unfortunately he hasn't brought his guitar because he has not come for the concert, he come for the technical session. If any one of you can provide him a guitar, after his session, he might play for us. Because he was, before joining Kolbus, he was a player in many of the bands in Germany. So let Mr. Bastiaan take over from me, and I wish him all the best.
Thanks a lot for the beautiful introduction. I'm very honored here to be here. Thanks to the Print Summit, which I think they did a very beautiful job of getting this session here on all the different parts of technology around printing backward and forward. I will talk today about the backward side. First, I will tell a bit about what is Kolbus, what is this company, what is Kolbus doing, what is the culture of Kolbus. Then I will try to make an easygoing introduction into making a book, because as I understand, your background is mainly printers, of the public present here. So I won't get too much into detailed questions, go over softcover products, hardcover products, and then come to the point, to a discussion about the importance of this finishing of the product. Yeah? And then there will be a lot of time also to get into questions, because I have been just this week traveling all through India, and I notice again and again that there's a lot of knowledge failing. People are asking just very basic things of how can I finish my book? So that will come to the end. Okay, to start. As introduced, we are on the countryside. You can recognize this is the plant. There's only countryside around it. Yeah? The village we produce has only 7,000 inhabitants, and the company has 1,100 employees. So you can imagine it's quite special. Basically, we are doing everything ourselves for quality reasons and also for process management, that the logistics inside the company are optimized. So we have technical development, research and development. We have a demo center. We are having our own foundry, making parts, stocking and maintenance. Here I will skip through some pictures just shortly. We have highly optimized production based on cut-down drawings. Founded materials worked on. Basically, every part can be checked by laser, so it's really high quality, very high precision, and this has to do also with the speed we are driving. It's very different if you are finishing a book by hand with 2,000 cycles, 4,000, 6,000, or even up to 20,000 cycles. Our product range starts at 6,000 cycles, therefore this high exactness. If some of your people have a Kolbus equipment now, this is where your spare parts are coming from, if any needed. The production, just to give an impression. So the whole story of Kolbus started in 1900, beginning of last century. August Kolbus built the Rupert, the first book rounding machine. Yeah. So it's basically, I just have a sample here, and this will join us throughout the talk today. So making the book only round, this is the only thing what was done. Then in 1927, the first case maker was made. And this tradition we have continued until today, and we are still market leader in case makers worldwide. Then 1930, the first casing in machine, so the first step to automation of making a book, casing in the book, was made with a 3-wing machine. Followed in 1962 by a fully automatic line where the head and tail bend is added and the casing in is done. In line, but all through separate machines. Quite a long line it was. Therefore, in 1972, a machine called the compact lane was introduced, where we did this whole process on a minimum of space, 7.65 meters. So that was much more automated still. And this is also the basis, basically, on the process which we are still doing today. Then in 1981, we entered also perfect binding. So until then, we were 100% making hardcover books. 1980, we entered to perfect binding, because we noticed that our customers in hardcover books also need softcover books. Yeah? And you have a tendency, but I will get back to that later, of also making hardcover books with perfect bound inside, not only sewn. And until then, it was very usual to only sew the books in hardcover production. Then, basically, the next step was in 1995, a tremendous increase of automation by the introduction of a co-pilot, a visual system, an automized machine, and very easy to handle for the operators. Until then, we have in the gathering technology of the printed sheet, basically the process is that you have the printed sheet, it's folded, and then the folded sheets are gathered on top of each other to get the basis for the book. This gathering process is normally done by a drum type of machine, traditionally, and what we presented on Drupa 2000 is a machine on the basis of a vacuum belt, yeah, where we don't take the signature down with the drum and change the direction to the binder, but we go immediately in the direction of the binder, yeah, making a complete new way open for higher speed binding. And this is what resulted now in 2004. Of you who have been on Drupa might have seen a 20,000 cycle perfect binder in combination with Ferrac and a 30 cycle book lane. Well, the 30 cycle book lane, this is basically, okay, what is coming to IPEX, so that's going to be a surprise still. I may not talk about it, but it's going to be interesting. So if you have the chance to go to IPEX, please join on our stand. Then the hardcover line. What we noticed is in hardcover binding that there is a lot of requests for hardcover binding, but the machines now delivered in new equipment are always running 60 cycles a minute, meaning 3,600 cycles an hour. Yeah? And this speed and also the capital investment is most of the time too big for many book producing companies, because they need a lower value, lower level of production. Therefore, we introduced the 30 cycle line. What you now see here is a schedule with the numbers of machines now in the market of hardcover binding, used equipment, 45 cycles and lower. Yeah, just to give some impression of the figures. Like 171 in Western Europe, still 77 here in the area, also in India is included here. And this is basically the market we're aiming at. So what the idea is basically with this machine is to make it viable to do hard copy binding also for a printer. Yeah, because what we do is basically at half speed and half the investment cost, make the same quality as the high-speed lines. This was just a bit to the background of the product. I will get more into the binding now. The hardcover book, as said, you have the printed sheet, it's fold, yeah, and then there are the two alternatives of one perfect bound book block or a zoomed product. In both cases, you will have to make a lining material around the back to get a good quality, to get a strength in the back of the book. After this, the rounding can be done. Sometimes you have square books and sometimes you have round books. The sample I brought here is round and actually made on a 10-year-old Kolbus here in India, in Sivakasi. Then you have the additional possibility of making gauze around the back to additionally strengthen the book. This is basically a bit the history of gluing the books with animal glue to get a kind of a network in the back of the book for the quality, for the stability of the book. Nowadays, the chemical substance of the glues are so high that normally nowadays you don't need the gauze anymore because you have a molecular network inside the glue already. Then the book is ready for making rounding, and after that you can have paste head and tail bend. Yeah? Basically, I don't know if you can see that. Here is like a cloth in the book, and the basic idea is that you make the book more beautiful at this end that you cannot look between the cover and the spine. Yeah? Then the cover is added, and after the cover is added, we impress the joint. Yeah? The joint of the book here. And then, after all, if you want a really beautiful book, you can make a dust jacket around it. Yeah? So another cover to protect the original cover. Basically, in the machine, we will go through how it's done. In this drawing, you just see a machine layout. It's about 22 meters altogether here, with also a heating or a delivery stacker, and in this case, a Z-block back gluing line before. For the gluing of the book block, you can do it on a perfect binder if you have a gauzing station, but you can also get a specialized back gluing unit, yeah, provided by Z-cloth. What the difference is with the perfect binder is, of course, you cannot add the cover. You can only add the glue on the back of the book and supply the lining material. Yeah, and this goes also in a vertical transport way. After that, you will go through the 3-knife trimming. After 3-knife trimming, you have the possibility of heating the back of the book to reactivate the glue so that you can have a good rounding in the casing in machine after that. This is the 3-knife trimmer, the heating, and the whole book bag. I won't get into too much details. The whole machine can be handled by the co-pilot system. Again, it's a system implemented on most of our equipment, which is visualized. The basis is very less language, but the use of pictures. Oh yes, thank you. So here you see the whole sequence of the process. The book block is coming over there. Then by a star feeder, it's taken, it's running on the star feeder and put very carefully into the channel of the machine. Then you get the positioning of the book and the rounding and backing. How that's done will come later. Then you have a gluing unit to apply glue on the back of the book block and to add the head and tail band. This head and tail band is basically pasted to a piece of paper, and this piece of paper is then applied on the back of the book. We will see that later in the picture. We have a case magazine on top of the machine, which can handle nowadays hardcovers, also flexi covers. I don't know if it's a known subject yet. It's basically a case without board inside. It's just a thicker paper, a board like 250 to 400 grams, and then folded like a case, so it gets a flexible feeling. This can also be processed in the machine, and also PVC covers. Then basically the book is coming through a paternoster system, and the glue is applied through rollers at the back and the front side. And then the cover comes on top and is taken along. The star infy, the rounding. Here you can see what this is, just to get in detail for Kolbus. We have a special way of doing the rounding. And that's basically we come down, we go to the side, go up again, back to the middle, down again, and to the other side. Therefore, you will always have a perfect rounding to the left and to the right of the book, and no squeezing. The older equipment, also our machines, they used to turn all the time, go down on the book and go up again. Nowadays, we control this movement, go down, to the left, up, to the middle again, down and to the right. And that with double power, so the result is the same, but very clean. And this system is patented. Here you see the lining station, a glue pot with kind of a screw to get a perfect viscosity in the area where the glue is applied. Because normally you have to add water to the animal glue, and this steering of this water is very important for the quality. Because if the glue is too wet, your head and tail will start swimming, and if it's too dry, it will not stick right. Yeah? And if you add the water and you don't have a tank like this, the glue will have a tendency to go down in level here, where the glue roller is, and all the water will tend to go there. And to avoid this problem, we have this screw and mix system and separate area where the glue roller is running through. Head and tail band is applied with cold glue. Here you see the paper and the head and tail band coming left and right. The case magazine, as said, for soft cover and hard cover, so integrated cases, PVC cases and board cases. Here you see the suckers for the thin materials. Here you have the pre-rounding of the case, because if you make a round book, you also want the case to be round, and therefore the case is rounded here. To get heavy books in a very nice quality with the joint, there is a possibility of adding hot melt in the joint area. This is done by a nozzle gluing system in the transport chain to apply the glue here, and afterwards, when the joint is pressed in the press, then the glue will reactivate and it will fix tremendously. And especially for heavy books, this is a very good option. We have different book splitters. This is basically to process Bibles and also thicker paper. There is a difference in behavior to split the book to, after that, be able to take the book on the wing. Here you get into the press and out. In the press we have 1.5 tons and 4.5 tons pressure applied on the book to get a perfect pressed book and a perfect joint into the book. Then the product has to be stacked. So far about hardcover. Then for the softcover area, we have a gathering machine. Or so far, maybe any questions to hardcover at this point, or just for time reasons I will continue and put all the questions at the end. Yeah. Okay. Soft cover, we have the gathering machine, the perfect binder, the transport system for drying the glue, for inline cleanup trimming, stacking, and if necessary, packing it in foil. Yeah. So, what you see nowadays, the difference in the machines is the level of automation nowadays. I will skip through this a bit quicker, because I would like to concentrate really on the making of the soft cover product. What we do is gather the signatures, which are full, and then the product is glued. You have the main milling, so you can mill the product and have the folded edges from the signatures flat. And then we have different options of working on the back of the book. You can do notching, micro notching, and it's all to get a structure in the paper to get adhesion with the glue. Then we have back gluing unit and side gluing unit. About different possibilities of gluing we can maybe discuss later a bit. But basically there's everything possible. Hot melt, cold glue, PUR, twin flats. There are different sizes of the machine to process the different kinds of glue. Here you see those main milling units. This is basically the grinding to make it whole flat, then to equalize it, notch it, and micro notching. I'm just skipping through a bit quicker because I think there might be more questions where you're from the printing side afterwards on the basic level, because this is getting too much in detail now. At this end, the cover is pasted, so we have the glue already applied, the cover is pasted, and we have the outfeed of the binder. So, basically, we have now in the design of the machine a few common rules that we want the machine to be ergonomically in good use, so the people can handle it right, because it's a lot of tons being moved in the machine, and the overall design and the automation level that the machine can be handled in a very easy way. Basically, what you see, especially here in India, is you have a lot of concentration on the printing machines. So actually, wherever place you come, the printing equipment is actually at a very high level. And then, what was already said in the introduction, then what follows? Yeah, to the making of the book. Yeah, and there is the quality level overall still. It can be improved a lot. Yeah, and the basic thing there is that the people, I think it's still hard to understand what is the importance of the binding and the quality, because only with the printed sheet it's not easy to sell. You need the final product as a whole, and this is what we are trying to market now. And whereas you are here the printers, I think I would just propose to make a kind of a question session to answer questions, to pick you up at the level where you are in the perfect binding, in the making of the books, if that's okay. So please. So,
yes, Bastiaan. We probably will have a lot of questions, but we will control ourselves. We will not ask many questions to you. First question I want to ask is, I have seen your machine, you have explained as to what it is, how it is glued and how it is bound, how it is cornered, how it is rounded. But when a book has to be made, there is a section of maybe 16 pages, 8 pages. How is it sewn? Is it done automatically in your machine, or is it done by labor? here we do it.
Okay. The sewing of the
Section
book
sewing.
is an area which we as Kolbus are not involved in, but Mechanotechnica, for instance, with the Aster machines are very heavily engaged in this. Basically, the whole process is automized. What the difference is, basically, you have the printed sheets, the folded sheets. Then you can go, as I said, the two ways. The one is the going for sewing, and the sewing, you just have the gathered sections, you put it in the machine, and the machine will open the sections and sew it automatically. And there are even systems nowadays in a combination of gathering and sewing, in the version of multiplex systems, bombax, very highly optimized systems. You can combine 2 up to 8 sewing machines with gathering. These are systems available now on the market.
Kolbus is not making that, not incorporating in your machine.
Not in our machine. What we do is basically the gluing and the making of the book block and the processing of the book after that.
What we find here is gluing and making a hardbound book. The pages tends to come out. So what we do is we do the section sewing, then go for hard binding. Now, for example, supposing any one of us decide to have your machine, we do have to have another machine for section sewing, right?
Yes.
Or are you going to be incorporating that in the items?
No, not like that. We have a very close cooperation with Mechanotechnica, as our agency here in the European is both selling Mechanotechnica machines and Kolbus machines. It's like an alliance. Like we also cooperate with the company Ziegler for the backgluing units.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for friends? I thought you're all relaxed now. After so many bouncers from Mr. Anthony, and now after a cup of tea, everybody is relaxed. I thought you'll ask many questions. Yes, 1 minute, Mr. Anthony has a question.
I was, we've seen more and more people using on-demand printing for print-on-demand books.
Yeah.
And one of the real difficulties is binding these things. Have you guys got a solution, or do you have any thoughts about how to bind the, essentially xerographic book?
Yeah. Actually, that's a very special section. You can do it at a very high level and at a very low level. What is implemented in the US, for instance, is that you have a gathering machine, yeah, and the program is implemented that you can tell which book is bound for which person at what moment. And then you gather sections, for instance, if you have a magazine and you have some people concentrating on hunting, some on fishing, yeah, the machine will get the signal. Mr. Johnson likes to be, or is the fishing part, and Mr. Johnson will get the fishing signature in, and the other will get the hunting signature in. These systems are available, but actually implemented only in the US because of the scale. In other countries around Europe, it's not that implemented, also because the databases are not available at that level as it is in the US.
Yes, Freddy has.
There's a feeling that these binding machines or book binding machines are very, very fast and cannot be optimized by small printers because each one has a book maybe once a month or maybe once in 2 weeks or in different regularities. So it can't seem to justify a small printer to invest in a binding machine. So is there a model which works abroad, like a pre-press house does pre-press for a number of printers? Yeah. Similarly, can a number of printers use a model where they go to a binder?
That is actually heavily implemented all around Europe. So basically there are two strains in the bookmaking. The printers, some printers are doing all their own, like Bertelsmann, they have their own publisher and also printing and binding, all in the house. Then there are big groups like CPI, they have both printing and binding, but they do the jobs for different publishers. And then the different model is that there is a whole trade area, so trade printers and also trade binders. And this is actually a bit depending on the country. Like in Finland, it's very usual you have publisher, printer, and finisher all in one house. There is only one operating bindery, yeah? But there is one, yeah? So all the companies can get their own capacity there, and also the free trade printers, which are there also in a small amount, can get their products bound there. And this is definitely a big problem. What I also see here in India is that a lot of printers don't have the capacity, or only in a certain time of the month, they have a certain product which has to be bound. And to then justify the investment, it's very hard. And it would definitely make sense to have a loose trade binder, because what usually happens is that if one printer would take the courage to buy a machine like that and sell also the service to other printers will have the tendency to not trust the other company and say, oh, if he does my binding, he will take my printing job as well, which is most of the time also justified in practice.
I think I will be in that position very soon. Finish exactly what I'm doing very soon, publishing, printing, and binding, all of it myself.
Yes.
Then I was better with the Russian.
Yes.
At the moment, obviously with that sort of investment, what we are discussing now is I will be able to use it almost for a week, my internal consumption. 3 weeks my bindery will be open.
I think the biggest issue is actually what I see here in India is that you can make basically anything by labor, yeah, because the labor costs are still at a very acceptable level here. So you can make everything, also the perfect bound or the hardback books by hand. The thing is to get the stability in the quality, yeah, and this is also where the problem starts if you have nice printing, yeah, which is actually export quality, and then you want the book to be also in export quality. And this is where it gets hard to do it with human labor, because you cannot get stability in the process to get the equal quality of applying the glue, to have a straight back, to have all the features what you need to have a nice book.
So that is the problem of investing in this.
Yes.
To overcome the shortcoming. Also the stability and speed. And another question, when you are talking about hard case, you are always talking about animal glue. Is there synthetic glue available?
Actually, worldwide, it's still very usual to have the animal glue. It's not for making the book block. The animal glue is not used for gluing the book block. It's only for adding the backlining paper with the head and tail band. Only for that.
Synthetic glue is available. Synthetic glue would be available.
It's also possible. Also, again, this is a US specialty. US does it only with hot melt, but it's not, we can do it, our machines can do it, but it's not used all across the world.
Any more questions?
Yeah.
What is the standard specification of raw material of case maker? Standard specification of raw material for case maker.
Standard specification of raw material.
It's basically, for the case maker, it's a very depending thing. You can almost process everything in a case maker, but it's a kind of a feeling thing. You can have very thin paper put around the board, yeah, because you have basically a board and you have a cover material. Everybody is in view that this is basically the case of the book. Inside we have the cover and the board, and around it there is a cover material. In this case it's a very thin printed paper and it's folded around the board. Yeah? But this material which you fold around the board, it can also be leather, it can be artificial leather, it can be thicker paper, it can be embossed material. You can do almost anything there. But you cannot give a very standard specification. But if you go to a bookstore, you can see very many things, what is possible, what kind of different cases you can make.
It all depends on the board what you're using. In our place, if we get a board surface rough, then you have to use thicker paper. Otherwise you get to see the roughness even after pasting the galley. If it is a good copper board sort of situation, you can definitely use 100 DSM or 130 DSM for galley pasting.
And of course there's also the possibility of using foam boards, so you get the weak feeling of the book. Yeah.
Anyone else? I think Bastiaan, you must continue. You must continue with your talks about the concluding talk of your binding. That would be better.
Hello, sir. Sir, in your slides, you have mostly talked about the full bound books. If we have to quarter bound or half bound,
Yes.
what are the changes we have to adopt in the machine?
Quarter bound books, or what do we?
There are three types of binding basically: half bound, quarter bound, and full bound.
I'm just doubting about the specification, if I understand you right, what you mean by quarter bound. If you,
Quarter bound means binding on the spine.
Yes.
And the corners. They are.
yes, okay. Yes, then we have the same, okay. This is basically only on the case maker. Yeah, so quarter bound cases is if you have different materials around the case. Yeah, and this can be in different forms, but for the processing of the book in the machine, it's not important.
Anyone else, any questions? No? Thank you so much. Bastiaan, thank you so much for your,
Yes.
for enlightening us on the binding. Yes, I would request our PMPA Golden Jubilee Chairman, Mr. Jagdish Shah, to give a memento to Bastiaan. Give him a big hand. Thank you. Thank you so much. Over to Freddie.